Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. This is Moina Bass Fishers. I am Jim Moina, president of Moina Bass Fishers Operations. In this video, we're going to talk about my practice day out here on Lake Mohave, here on the border of Arizona and Nevada. This would be for the 2024 One Bass US Open, which will be starting this coming Monday. It goes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So today is God, what is it today? October 8th? I think today's October 8th, Tuesday. So today was my first day out there, and I was surprised at how well the fish were biting. They've been on, the weather here has been hot. It's been a hot spell, and it's going to continue to be hot up until and by hot, I'm talking like mid 100, like 105 type stuff for highs. I mean, when I pulled the boat out, and then I worked on some gear under a light at the boat landing for about 20 minutes. So it was basically pitch black by the time I left out of there. And the temperature on my truck temperature, not the engine temperature, but the I got a little temperature thing on the rear view mirror. Tells you what the outside temperature is. That outside temperature was still reading 99 degrees, and it was pitch black out at that point. So that just gives you an idea of the kind of heat we're dealing with. And this kind of near record high heat is supposed to go on for like till like through the weekend or to the weekend, and then it's going to cool down into the 90s. So highs will be like in the mid to upper 90s. So that's the cool down. So I don't know if this super hot weather's got them going. I know back in Minnesota when we get super hot weather, the fish get going really good there. So maybe it's the same sort of thing here. But both species, there are largemouth and there are smallmouth in Lake Mohave, and both species, those fish were they're ready to feed, and feed they did. So that was kind of interesting, because I remember last year, I really struggled in practice last year trying to figure out what to do, how to catch them. I remember having one entire practice day where I never caught a keeper, and I think I got to double check this, but I think the keeper is 13 inches out here, but I will have to double check that before tournament time, of course. And to win this tournament, you're not going to be, the person that wins this tournament is not going to be weighing any fish that are like 13 to 14 inches. So, I'm not really concerned about immediately finding that rule right now. But by tournament time, I will know the rule, which as far as the minimum length limit. But I do know that whoever wins this tournament is probably going to have fish that are all like 16 inches or bigger, probably. All right, so now I did fish for largemouth and smallmouth today, and they both were biting. I checked some of my places from last year, and fish were there. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Ran a couple new areas and found fish in those areas. So I'm really predicting that this year's weights, the winning weight's going to be higher than last year. The top five, fifth place is going to be higher than last year's fifth place, and so on. The last money check for this year's probably going to be higher than last year. That is my prediction, because these fish were, unless the only thing is, so there is going to be that slight cool down, which is a frontal passage. If that kind of puts the fish in a little bit of a wank, maybe not so much the fish will be going crazy. So that could happen. It could be that these fish that are going crazy right now just might slightly shut it down for the tournament when the cooler weather comes in. Plus, if we have a lot of wind on that comes in with that cool weather, that just makes it hard to get around out here. Which cuts into fishing time, and and boat control and running, running your forward facing sonars a lot harder when it's windy. So those things, those that the wind and the just the weather, I mean, that could bite into the bite a little bit and, put a little damper on the weights. But dude, if we had the tournament today, I mean, that would have been just the weights would have been just a freaking blowout. I mean, I'm talking just everybody would have had fish today. So, yeah, and as far as what do I see? I mean, like I said, it was just so easy today, which kind of blows my mind. It's almost too easy. It's one of those things like, I can't believe this. Something's this possibly can't hold up, is what I was going through my mind. It's not like I caught 100 fish. It's not even like I caught 50 fish. But when I got around some fish, they bit. Okay. And, because like I said, I fished some areas from last year and caught some fish there, but then I tried some new areas, and you get around areas where there are no fish, and so you go for lengthy periods of time where you're not around them, you're not catching any, and then eventually you get back into fish. So, but if a guy was around fish all day today, yeah, you probably could have caught 40 to 50 fish. That would include, small ones, but even big ones. The biggest one I caught today was probably 4.25 pounds. The weight that I would have had today with my best 5, it would have been a mixed bag of largemouth and smallmouth. The best 5 would have been probably 14 pounds, maybe 15 pounds. I had that 4-pounder. But then I didn't really have any other like 3.5 and 3.75 type stuff. The rest of the bag would have been filled out with fish in the 2.5 to 3.25 pound range. So, which would have been like a 14.5, 15-pound bag maybe. Which you do that 3 days, you're going to get paid out here, but you're not going to win. So, and to win out here, the last 2 years, it was guys that were focusing on smallmouth. So that's what won the tournament last year and the year before. This is the 3rd year they're going to Lake Mohave for the U.S. Open. Traditionally, it always had been on Lake Mead, but as you might have figured out, with Lake Mead's super low water, there's just the facilities are just not conducive to holding a tournament there. Maybe this year they could have done it. I don't know, but I know they had to move it to Lake Mohave the last 2 years because of low water at Lake Mead. Haven't really been keeping up with Lake Mead's water level this year. The little bit that I have heard, it's there was a little bump from the snow melt because there was a lot of snow melt this year. There's a little bump up, but I think from what I understood, most of that bump has disappeared, and the lake is still low. So by a bump, I thought what I heard was it went up 20 feet with that bump, with the snow melt bump, but most of that 20 feet now is gone, getting close back to where it was. So anyhow, that's not important. So this will be, I anticipate this year it'll be, mostly, a guy's going to win, mostly all smallmouths again to win. That's my prediction. Those are the beefcakes out here. That's what you want. There's very little grass in this lake. There's a little bit of this scrubby stuff in the backs of some of these pockets. And I'm talking way back in the pockets. And this scrubby stuff, and this lake, you can tell this lake was up a little bit earlier this year. Just looking at the shorelines, you get back, and if you're going back to one of these pockets, you can just see the water line where maybe it was earlier this year, and you can see it's down. So anyhow, it's down from earlier this year. So, like I said, if it's going to be a smallmouth tournament, a lake with very little grass, it's going to be a forward-facing. This tournament's going to be forward-facing sonar premium. Okay, I mean, the guys that are really good with that, those are the ones that you're gonna have to look out for. Now, I always tell myself I can't. I don't. I mean, I always feel like I'm pretty good with it, but in these dominant forward-facing sonar tournaments, if I'm really good at it, then why am I not? Shouldn't I be finishing in the top 15, top 20 in these types of tournaments? Well, yeah, I should be, but I'm not. In any heavy dominated forward-facing sonar tournament, I'm just not landing in that position. I had, when I fished when it was when I was the day one leader earlier this year at Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma. Yeah, everything I was doing was forward-facing sonar. But that was day one. Day two there, it was a big fail. So anyhow, I digress. Back to this tournament. Heavy forward-facing sonar. The guys that are good with that are going to do well here. I believe that I'm pretty good with it, but I mean, I feel like I'm good with it. Okay, I mean, if I see a fish that's 50 feet out in the 11 o'clock position from the boat, I can hit that fish just about every time. So I'm really good. I've gotten really good at my casting distances. When the fish are off to the sides, I'm good at hitting those. So the casting parts I'm pretty good at, and it all comes down to presentation, really. I mean, I can get the baits to the fish. It's just when the baits do get to the fish, what is the fisherman doing with those baits? And hopefully I've got a little trick up my sleeve that's going to pay off. It kind of worked last year, but I didn't even figure it out until day one of the tournament, like in the last half hour, day one of the tournament, when I sucked really bad. In the last 30 minutes, I made a bait change and I caught a couple of short ones after barely catching anything all day. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to just use this bait. And then I did, and it worked on days 2 and 3. It worked good enough to where I didn't have huge catches, but I caught enough to actually climb up into the money. So now, having that bait to use all 3 days of the tournament, I'm kind of excited about that. So I got to get that bait in front of the fish. But but with practice, practice is all about experimenting with other baits too. So I will be experimenting with other baits, other lures, other presentations, other techniques, and just to see if there's something else, that I can fall back on. But yeah, so I still have Wednesday. I still got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to practice. So I got four full days coming up, and it's gonna be exciting to see what can happen. Just looking at the boat landing, I would say not everybody's here practicing yet. I would have to say maybe. Actually, I mean, maybe only 40, 1 out of 3 guys are here now. But that's going to change, There'll be a bunch of guys here tomorrow that'll be here for their first day of practice. And then I think a lot of guys will take 2 or 3 days to practice. And, we should see the whole full field out here, probably for sure on Saturday or for sure on, Friday. And then Nate Danier full field maybe for Thursday. So, and that's you put all these fishermen out here, that puts a lot of pressure on the fish. A lot of fish get hooked, get caught, so you end up with a lot of wary, tough to catch fish. You end up with a lot of those on the community holes. So, and with me being ahead of the curve, well, maybe I'm just catching all these fish because the bulk of the field isn't here yet. So anyhow, those are my thoughts after day one. I'm excited to be here, excited to do this. It was a long drive to get out here. And I don't know, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for watching this video. Over and out.